today's Free Kids cooking class, we are going to be making white chocolate peppermint Oreo bark. So I love white chocolate. It is one of my very, very favorite treats. So we are going to make something delicious with white chocolate. Now, the first thing is we're going to start melting our white chocolate, and then while it's melting, we can be kind of preparing some of the other ingredients. What I'm going to end up putting my bark on is this silicone mat, okay, this purple one. Silicone mats are great for stuff like this because the chocolate bark will just peel off of it with no problem. If you don't have a silicone mat, then you can use parchment paper or wax paper, maybe spray it with cooking spray, whatever you have to make sure that you can get the bark off of your cooking tray or whatever you've put it on. So I'm going to be melting my chocolate in, this is called the stack cooker. I'm melting it in the stack cooker because the stack cooker melts chocolate faster and smoother. It makes it really, really smooth and easy. So that's why I've chosen to use it. I'm going to do 8 ounces of white chocolate first, and this is a 12 ounce bag. So that's a cup and a half. And we need 1 cup of white chocolate at first. That's 8 ounces. Or 8 ounces is equal to 1 cup. Oop, okay, a little overage, no big deal, okay? So I'm gonna put this in the microwave and we're gonna melt it at 30-second intervals until it is nice and smooth, and we're gonna stir in between each 30 seconds in the microwave to make sure the chocolate doesn't burn. Okay, so while that is in the microwave, we are gonna prepare our Oreos. Our Oreos are gonna go on to the first layer of this recipe. So we're gonna chop them up. So we need 16 Oreos and we're gonna chop them up. Okay, so now again, I'm gonna chop them up in the Power Chef because it is so much easier, and I have one, and I love it because it makes things like this easy. But you can totally chop up Oreos any other way you want, okay? So you can just put them on a cutting board and chop them with a knife. You can put your Oreos in a Ziploc bag, and then you can hit them with something, hammer, spoon, you can smash them with your hands, whatever, to get them all chopped up into crushed up Oreos. Okay, you probably heard the microwave, so we're gonna check on our melting chocolate. Okay, all right, so it doesn't look like anything has happened at all, right? That always happens the first time that we take something like this out of the microwave. Stir it anyway, all right? And when I'm stirring, I can tell that a little bit of melting has happened on the bottom. And now I'm gonna just make sure all the white chocolate chips are in the bowl, and then I'm gonna put it back in for 30 more seconds. Okay, and while we work on that, we're gonna get our 16 Oreos. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, 16 Oreos. We're gonna chop those up. Okay, so my Oreos are totally chopped. Perfect. Now we're gonna get our chocolate out of the microwave again. Okay, let's check on it. Stir again. We always stir no matter what, okay? I should have shown you, but they looked just like regular chocolate chips that weren't melting at all. But then when I started to stir, you can see that now they're all melted. I mean, we're done, right? So I'm just going to stir a little bit to kind of get some of the lumps. A few of those chocolate chips are quite melted, but when you stir them in with the rest of the chocolate that's really hot, they'll melt really easily. Now we're gonna take, hopefully you can see this entire pan, because we're gonna take all of this chocolate, all 8 ounces, and put it on our Silpat pan, or our silicone mat here, whatever you've got. Okay. And then I'm just gonna spread it out. Now don't do too thin, right? Because you don't want it to be super thin and break, but of course you don't want huge, big, thick slabs either. So just use your feel, go about halfway in between the two. I'm going back and forth, one direction and then the next to kind of spread it out. And that looks good. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to stop, and we are going to take our Oreos, and we're going to sprinkle the Oreos all over the white chocolate. So maybe you use all your Oreos, maybe you don't. Use as much as you feel like will taste good. That's part of cooking, right? Make sure that you know you're going to like it. Okay? Filling in the sides. All right, so that looks good to me, and I still have crushed up Oreos left over, which is totally fine, right? You can use as much or as little as you want. Now, this needs to go into the refrigerator for 10 to 15 minutes, so I'm going to put it in right now. Now, you are not going to stay on this show with me for 15 minutes while that stays in there. Of course, that would be boring. Okay, but what we are going to do is we're going to do a little preparation. Okay, the next thing you do for this recipe is exactly what we just did, but instead of topping it with Oreos, you're going to top it with peppermints. Okay, so I'm going to melt my white chocolate in about 10 to 15 minutes when that comes out of the refrigerator. If I do it too soon, it will harden and I won't be able to use it. So I'm going to put my stack cooker off to the side, but just know that you are going to melt another 12 ounces of white chocolate. So 12 ounces is equal to 1.5 cups. 8 ounces is a cup, so 12 ounces is 1.5 cups, all right? So you're going to do 1.5 cups of chocolate chips, and then you're going to put the white chocolate all over your Oreos, and then top that with peppermints. Okay, and we're going to crush up our peppermints right now so that you can kind of see how I do it. In addition, why do you think that you need 12 ounces of white chocolate for the second layer and only 8 ounces of chocolate for the first layer? It's the same size, right? It's the same size area on top of your silicone mat. So why do you think you need more for the second layer? Think about that for a second. Maybe see if you can tell the answer to your mom or whoever you're with. So for the peppermint layer, you can use candy canes, of course. I didn't have any candy canes, and at the store they had these just peppermint candies, right? Just like a peppermint candy, your normal peppermint drop. So I'm just unwrapping some of them. The recipe calls for 1/3 of a cup, but I would not worry too much about actually measuring exactly how many peppermints you're using. You just want to make sure that you have enough to cover the top of your layer, just like you did with the Oreos. Now, peppermint is a stronger flavor than Oreos, so I am not going to put quite as much peppermint on as I did Oreos. But that, again, is personal preference, which is one of the beautiful things about cooking, is you get to choose how much of certain ingredients you put in a recipe. Okay, so now I've unwrapped some of these peppermints and I put them in a Ziploc bag. I'm going to zip up this bag, get all the air out by squishing it, and I'm going to put the peppermints on a cutting board. So here is the deal. These peppermints are super hard, and you need to crush them up. How are we going to do that? I'm doing it with a hammer, okay? You can do it however you want. You can crush them up any way that is good for you. I put them in a Ziploc bag, and I'm going to hit the peppermints with a hammer. So this is going to get a little bit loud. If you're doing this the same way that I am, make sure you have a cutting board. You're not doing it directly onto your countertop. You could even take your bag outside and do it on your sidewalk, okay? So here I go. Okay, so there it is. Peppermints are one of the hardest things to break up. So that's why I use a hammer. They're so hard. Okay, so now I have peppermint. I have bigger pieces. I have kind of a powder. I have a variety, which is what I want. So you can do as many or as few as you want. Again, I do it with a hammer. So now, I'm not going to make you wait 15 minutes for that to cool and then come out of the microwave. So what you're going to do out of the refrigerator. So you're going to do, when it's ready, take it out of the refrigerator and put it on your counter. melt 12 ounces of chocolate chips. And I'm going to tell you the reason, the answer of why you need more chocolate chips melted for the second layer. It's because you are going over your Oreo cookies, which makes it bigger and more area, and also kind of a little bit of a dome, right? Not a drastic dome, but enough that you need more chocolate chips to cover. And a lot of that chocolate will kind of get into the cracks and crevices of the Oreos, and you'll need more to cover the same amount of space. So that's why. Okay, so melt your 12 ounces of chocolate, put that melted chocolate all over your Oreos, and then sprinkle it with your crushed up peppermints. Put the whole thing back in the refrigerator for about 15 minutes, if not 30 minutes. You can throw it in the freezer to get it to get harder faster. And then you can take it out, you can eat it. You can crumble it up, you can break it up with your hands, you can put it on a cutting board and cut it with a knife, anything you want. It's your bark. All right, enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed this recipe.